These are just some of the people that make Telehell possible, including Dave's Archives, where they transfer, archive, and preserve classic commercials from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Look for him on YouTube at Dave's Archives. By Studio 3 TV, a curated digital programming space exploring media past and present, blending commercials, remix culture, and original hosted segments. Look for him on YouTube at Studio 3 Digital. Kier's Nostalgia Corner, a collection of commercial compilations, various retro nostalgic things, and the occasional live stream. Look for her on YouTube at Kier's Nostalgia Corner. Kev the Ripper, uploading things with original commercials that nobody has seen in years. Look for him on YouTube at KEVRIP and then 3 Z's. And of course, our ever-dedicated patrons on Patreon at Telehell Podcast, including Rhonda Farrell, Brian Hennigar, Rick Kalacki Jr., Chris Michaud, Meredith Morrissey, Rabite, Spare Parts, and Neil Weinstein. Thank you. Hey, how you doing? Me? Well, I'll be honest. I'm a bit exhausted. And your next question is probably, how can you be so exhausted when this show is now a monthly program? I'll tell you how. You see, because of how much we've been scaling back lately, we kind of want to make up the difference in lack of episodes by increasing the amount of minutes in what episodes that we put out these days. Now, thanks to the new monthly format, we've pretty much tried to extend ourselves a little bit. If you've listened to the past few episodes, you'll know that we've extended ourselves by maybe another 20-30 minutes or so, but you know, you gotta give the people what they want, and sometimes the people are asking for more, so we've been giving you more. Here's the thing. Our upcoming episode on 1985's formerly lost TV movie, Playing with Fire, took a lot more out of me to write than normally it would. So much so that I can honestly say without any hyperbole that this episode may turn out to be, God help me, our longest episode ever. To put that in perspective, normally whenever we write a show, I try to keep things under maybe 10 pages, single-spaced, and that adds up to about 5,000 words, or sometimes 6,000 or 7,000 if it's a really bad show that I want to take down, but we're in the middle of an ongoing storyline if you've been missing the past few shows. I had to add a little extra, not just the things that we review, but also the story elements, and in this case, especially since this one is going to have a special guest in it, I wanted to write the story around this guest because he was the one that found the movie a few years ago before his first YouTube page shut down unceremoniously. In short, this episode next week is going to clock in at around 36 pages and over 11,000 words of dialogue that don't even include sound effects and stage direction. It's gonna be that big, folks. Brace yourself. Which brings us to the reason why we're here today. This episode turned out to be so massive in size and in scope that as we were finishing the script and the recording sessions for each individual person that's going to be in the show, I forgot to add one key element to the episode. And that would be the part where I introduce the thing that I'm reviewing with whatever backstory there was in the making of a given show. I have never skipped that part of the show before, and I hope never to do that again. But to make up for forgetting that part in advance, that's exactly what we're going to do right now. So with that, follow along as we tell the tale of one Mr. Gary Coleman.
Now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. What might be right for you may not be right for some. A man is born.
You can't mention classic sitcoms without paying heed to different strokes. From 1978 to 1986, the tale of two orphans from Harlem getting adopted by a millionaire and adjusting to life in the fast lane. All the while, learning valuable life lessons and also giving bicycle shops their worst possible publicity for decades to come.
All right, now I want you boys to scream real loud at my ass.
And without question, the major reason why people kept coming back week after week was because of the antics that the star of the show would get into.
Yo, Gary!
I'm coming!
Oh my God, it's Gary Coleman!
Yes, I am. I'm Gary Coleman from TV's Different Strokes. I made a lot of money that got stolen by my folks.
Celebrity voice impersonated, but you do get the point. After a few years of doing TV commercials in the early part of the 1970s, Gary Coleman's big break came thanks to his role as Arnold Jackson on Different Strokes. Coleman had become a household name thanks to that show, almost practically overnight. At the height of his popularity, he was earning an astonishing amount of money for a child actor that his parents and financial managers couldn't help but dip their hands into. But I digress. Coleman became so synonymous with the character that people could barely look at him without even hearing the words,
"What you talking about, Willis? What you talking about, Dad? What you talking about, Doctor? What you talking about, Manny? What you talking about, Oscar?"
echoing somewhere in the back of their minds.
Try having people stopping you to ask you, "What you talking about, Willis?" It gets old.
Unfortunately, that level of success can become a prison all of its own. By the mid-1980s, Coleman was entering the same phase that traps a lot of child actors: the desperate struggle to convince audiences and, more importantly, producers, that there was more to him than the role that made him famous. Throughout the run of Different Strokes, NBC had been packaging him into a seemingly endless parade of TV movies and specials, many of which played directly into his public image as a lovable kid hero. But as Coleman grew older, he increasingly sought opportunities to show that he could do more than just deliver catchphrases and comedic one-liners. By 1985, Coleman was in a very strange place professionally. On the one hand, he was arguably one of the biggest child stars in America, but on the other hand, he really wanted to break free of those roles that made him famous and see what kind of range he had as an actor. Which brings us to Playing with Fire.
Next Sunday, Gary Coleman as you've never seen him before. He's cheered your hearts. Now he's going to touch your hearts in a shocking NBC World movie premiere about a young boy's desperate plea for love and understanding.
I wish to stay out of trouble once and for all. Everything's my fault.
Gary Coleman in Playing with Fire next Sunday.
Unlike many of the made-for-TV projects Coleman headlined previously, this was not a fantasy, a comedy, or another variation of Gary Coleman Saves the Day. Instead, he was cast as David Phillips, a troubled teenager whose response to his parents' crumbling marriage is to engage in increasingly dangerous acts of arson. It was a considerably darker role than audiences were accustomed to seeing from him, and represented what would turn out to be the only dramatic performance that he would ever give in his career. In fact, several accounts have pointed to this film as an intentional effort to demonstrate that Coleman was capable of carrying more mature material. The production itself was no small affair either. The film featured an impressive supporting cast, especially for television, including legends like Cicely Tyson, Ron O'Neal, and Yaphet Kotto. Hardly the sort of performers you recruit when you're trying to crank out another disposable TV movie. But NBC clearly hoped that they had something more substantial on their hands. Jumping ahead a little though, if you're listening to this, there's a decent chance you've actually never seen Playing with Fire, and for many years, neither had just about anybody else. After its original broadcast on NBC in April of 1985, plus a wide array of tepid reviews from critics, the film effectively vanished from public view. It was never given a commercial home video release. Rarely, if ever, did it resurface in reruns, and gradually developed a reputation among TV show collectors as one of those titles that would never see the light of day ever again. And for nearly 4 decades, the movie occupied that strange corner of pop culture known as lost media. A work that was known to have existed, but which most people had no practical way of viewing. Sort of like the Mandela effect, but with more substantial evidence to back up an entity's existence. But then, in 2024, a digital miracle took place on YouTube. A surviving recording of the original NBC broadcast finally surfaced online. Almost overnight, a TV movie that many collectors had spent years hunting for went from rumor to reality. The irony, of course, is that after spending nearly 40 years as one of TV's greatest missing persons cases, the film's rediscovery generated more discussion than it had received during its original network run. And quite honestly, that's kind of fitting. because much like Gary Coleman himself, Playing with Fire spent decades trying to be seen as something more than what people assumed it was. Something that had a sheen of the Mandela effect on it. A TV program that people claimed to have seen and knew deep down that it existed, yet without any shreds of evidence of its existence, those claims went unfounded for decades. Until now. We will be looking at Playing with Fire, and we will find out once and for all if the movie should have stayed buried for another 4 decades, or if it deserved to get much more attention. Not unlike its main character who burned things just to get noticed.
I want you to stay out of trouble once and for all. Everything's my fault.
Gary Coleman in Playing with Fire next Sunday.
Playing with Fire, our 7th anniversary subject dropping July 5th in Telehell.
Telehell was written, produced, edited, and narrated by me, Justin Hart. All clips used in this program are protected under the Fair Use Doctrine of the U.S. Copyright Act of 1976, and all clips used come courtesy of their respective companies and owners. Some of the music used in this program comes courtesy of YouTube and their audio library service. Telehell is a production of Horton Road and is distributed by Libsyn.
Another great show from Horton Road.
What you talking about, everyone?